There seems to be a lot of momentum right now around Shedeur Sanders going to the Browns at pick number 2. I cannot open up Twitter without seeing no less than 10 AI generated photos of Shedeur Sanders smiling in a Browns uniform at the stadium. You can't scroll more than 30 seconds without running across something related to Shedeur coming to the Browns. So I want to talk about this momentum, a little bit of where it's coming from, and whether or not it has any legs. So Shedeur Sanders also had a video go out saying that his first visit during the NFL draft process is with the Cleveland Browns. And this has generated a lot of intrigue and people wondering, does that mean the Browns are going with Shedeur? The Browns are doing their homework. It's their job. For the NFL, if you work in the front office, you are now in your regular season. They're like nocturnal. Their busiest time of the year is when the players are not on the field because they have to assemble the roster. So I don't look at this as evidence. I look at this as good. They should meet with Shedeur. They should meet with every top prospect. That's what they're paid to do. And they've got a nice salary too. So this to me is not some must-see news right here. But this seems to be the momentum origin. It's the Browns color commentator on the radio, Nathan Segura, who has put out a lot of tweets and clips and videos talking about the Browns going number 2 quarterback. He quote tweeted someone with this one saying, "I love all the interaction and passion about these comments. I will say this, there are no sure things in the NFL draft, regardless of position. But there is one absolute sure thing in the NFL. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance." And he had some interactions with fans, which I really respect because I don't like when people feel like they're too good to reply to people on Twitter. So someone talked about, Zach Wilson was number 2, and he responded by saying, "But what if there is? That's so strange to be so sure you couldn't possibly get a great QB at number 2 this year." And then there was another instance of him going back and forth with someone saying, "Yeah, everyone says you keep taking swings at QB, but if you look at it, very few of the best organizations swing when the cupboard is bare. Hurts replace Wentz, Mahomes, Alex Smith, Lamar Flacco, get stability, then get your QB." And Segura points out Jayden Daniels replaced no one. CJ Stroud replaced no one. And yeah, Daniels, Jayden, and I see what he did there. Remind me again where they were picked. So this, by the way, as I'm filming live right now, it's kind of good timing because he just tweeted out 5 minutes ago talking about, for some reason, Browns fans have this belief that picking Sanders or Ward, but we'll be specific to Shedeur in this case here, at 2 is way too early of a draft pick. I don't think that's out of bounds to say it's way too early. I was curious. Where does Shedeur rank right now in the pre-draft process compared to some other quarterbacks? He's 25th on Dane Brugler's big board. Jayden Daniels was 8th. CJ Stroud was 4th. So when I'm getting a little tired of people saying, well, look what happened to the Commies and look what happened to the Texans. It's worked out so well for them. Yeah, everyone was way more confident about these guys as prospects compared to Shedeur. And for reference, I just went back 1 year further in the draft. Kenny Pickett was 30th on Brugler's big board when he was selected in 2022. So for me, the number 2 pick is just too valuable to take any quarterback. An analogy I'll use is sometimes I see videos of families giving presentations of where to go on their next family vacation. Like everyone makes a PowerPoint, right? We've seen this before online. Imagine it comes down to 2 locations, Hawaii and Disney World. Pros and cons for both. And the family member that's backing Hawaii spends their whole presentation bashing Disney. The line, the heat in Orlando in August, the ticket prices, and all that is fair, and I'm not going to push too much back on it. But they don't spend any of the time talking about how great Hawaii is. In this case, everyone that wants to go with Shedeur at number 2 hardly ever spends time talking about Shedeur as a prospect. They just want to take a quarterback because the easiest way to flip a franchise around is by getting a great quarterback. I'm sorry to continue to be the bearer of bad news. And if this ages poorly, so be it. But I'd rather have an opinion than just try and play Switzerland and be neutral. I don't think there is a quarterback in this draft class that is going to save the franchise. So instead of just wasting the second overall pick because you want to go all in roulette style, how about you take someone you got more confidence in, like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, to really be a long-term impact player and not just be impatient and go, but we just saw two teams the last 2 years do it. Guess what? Those were much better quarterback draft classes than this year. It's unfortunate timing for Cleveland. It really is. But two wrongs don't make a right. Now, when it comes to Sanders as a player, I think you can probably tell right now where I stand on just him and the process of selecting him second overall. I'm not super high on it, but I do want to give you guys just some as much unbiased information as possible when it comes to him as a prospect. So here's the skinny on him. 6'2", 250 pounds. Good size, right? That's pretty average quarterback size. He's not, short king like Baker or Drew Brees was. So check that box right there. Accuracy, he is arguably the most accurate college football quarterback in college football history ever. He finishes number 1 in completion percentage, I think. So that's a major pro for him. He's tough as nails. He took 99 sacks the last 2 years at Colorado. He got up from every single one. Hardly missed a snap. I don't think he even missed one snap. So very tough, very accurate. And the numbers over his 2 seasons in Boulder are pretty good. But we should know by now not to evaluate college quarterbacks based on their stats. There are so many, like Bailey Zappi had more touchdown passes than Joe Burrow. Bailey Zappi is not a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. So we shouldn't look at stats as major evidence to take someone or not when it comes to the quarterback position. Now, I'll pause right here and have you guys be the host for a second. If you were Andrew Berry, what would you do at number 2? Let's say Cam Ward goes first overall. You're taking Sanders, you're taking Carter, you're taking Hunter. I'm taking Abdul Carter, not with the expectation that he will be as good as Myles Garrett. That's a very high bar, and it's unfair. But with the expectation of, here's a player that can get you 10 to 15 sacks and make 4 to 5 Pro Bowls in a 10-year career in Cleveland. I'll sign up for that. I think that's a pretty good player to acquire. Probably not going to be a future Hall of Famer, Cleveland to can. Maybe he is, but I'm not going to say that has to be the bar for him to be a successful pick. But I do believe he will be a very good player at the next level. Now, the only way I could warm up to Sanders being the pick at 2 or just in round 1 is if the Browns trade Myles Garrett, they acquire an extra first-round pick this year, and now they feel like we can take a risk with Shedeur at number 2, and if it doesn't work out, we still have another first-round pick where we can find a quality impact player. If that's the case right there, just given how valuable the quarterback position is, I could probably raise the white flag and go, okay, it's worth the gamble, because worst case scenario, well, sure, you might not have used the second overall pick to its best ability. You still have another first-round pick where you can find a quality impact player, and the reward might outweigh the risk in that situation. But as of now, with one first-round pick, I don't think the reward outweighs the risk. Not to say outweighs the risk, but I think the risk is just too high. Just given my concerns with Sanders as a prospect, I would say the lack of arm strength, but I don't think he has the ability to make a lot of difficult throws. He took a lot of sacks, which kudos to him for being super tough, but ask yourself, why did he take a lot of sacks? People are going to be shallow and say, oh, the Colorado offensive line stunk. And it did his first year, but he still had over 3 seconds of average time to throw. The ball needs to come out quicker. And to me, that's a concern of, wow, what about when things start to speed up in the NFL? That's someone who took a lot of time in college ranks holding on to the ball. When he gets a lot of different looks in the NFL, that ball's got to come out pretty quick. And that didn't happen at Colorado. So maybe coaching can solve that, but for now, that's something that really sticks in the back of my head. Now, next up on the show, I want to talk about if this is, all smoke or if it's got some legs to it. But first things first, I do have to give a big shout out to our friends over at Mando. You see, Mando is the best whole body smelling deodorant on the market. I walk to work most days. I walk today, and it's about a 30-minute walk, which can cause me to work up a little bit of a sweat, and I don't want to be super smelly for Reed in the studio. But when I use Mando, I come into the office pit stain free. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Mando is offering new customers $5 off their starter pack at shopmando.com with promo code CHAT. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice. Luckily, I've got a discount code to help you guys get hooked up on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code CHAT. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code CHAT at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. So all these tweets from Nathan Segura, who works for the Cleveland Browns, he's their color commentator. Is it just him weighing in, giving his 2 cents? Or maybe, and this is where you kind of go down the conspiracy hole with me, Nathan Segura trying to get the fan base on board with the Shedeur Sanders pick because he's got word that's the plan. So starting in February, he's going to try and rally the masses to be on board with this so that the backlash from the fan base is not too great if they just kind of not surprise people, but didn't start to prepare people. Now they've got 2 months to get everyone to see all these Sanders highlights, to get all these edits of him in a Browns jersey and be like, okay, you got me. I'm in. I bought into this. That's one conspiracy theory. But the argument against that is Andrew Berry really going to run his draft strategy through the radio color guy? Like, no offense to Segura, but like Berry is not one to be very public about what their plans are. He's not some like old-fashioned GM who just fires off a bunch of iconic one-liners and speaks his mind. No, he's very close to the vest. So I just have a tough time thinking Berry really sitting down with Segura's like, so here's the plan, dude. We're going to go Shedeur at number 2. Don't tell anyone, but could you tweet out a bunch of stuff to get the fan base kind of, energized about this pick? That to me seems like a big stretch. So I think what likely is going on here is Nathan Segura just likes Shedeur Sanders as a prospect. And he's just hopping in on Twitter with Browns fans, giving his thoughts on the matter. I don't think the Browns are going to use him as a mouthpiece. I don't think, but it's the NFL, right? Never say never. Now, one thing I do want to emphasize is the combine and the pre-draft visit, I think, will loom very large for the Browns and their evaluation of Sanders. The Browns as an organization are not a team that goes off the eye test, right? They are very analytically driven. They look at age, they look at relative athletic score, RAS, as 2 major factors when making a decision on who to select. There is a lot of evidence over 5 Andrew Berry drafts now, that is a big motivating factor, and it's not a coincidence. They also tend to stray away from non-Power 4 schools. They don't try and find the hidden gem from the FCS. That's not really their pedigree, right? Maybe a little bit in day 3, but not early on at least. So for a team that's motivated by analytics, they want to see how Shedeur Sanders weighs in, right? From height, weight, hand size, all that stuff. To other people, that might not matter. Other teams might go, I don't care about that. I throw the tape on and I like what I see. But to the Browns, I do think it matters. They want to see at the combine, what kind of velocity do you have on your pass? They look for those numbers. They are a number-driven team. And there's a ton of numbers that come out of the combine in a pre-draft visit. So those are going to be two major landmarks in the pre-draft process for the Browns. Before we wrap up today's video with one more quick portion I want to cover, help us reach 45,000 subscribers. You may hate me for my draft analysis and thoughts on it, but I promise that there's no one out there that's going to put as much Cleveland Browns draft content on YouTube as we are over the next 2.5 months. So we got to get to 45,000 subs. We're less than 4,000 away. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if you have not already. Now, speaking of the draft, Field Yates from ESPN put out his mock draft, and with the second overall pick, he had the Browns going with Abdul Carter. So I do want to take a quick look at this and discuss the possibility of Carter being the Cleveland Browns pick and just get everyone familiar with that selection. Here's what Yates wrote. The Browns, like the Titans, will do their homework on the top of the quarterback class, and I wouldn't rule out one of the Ward or Sanders going here. But considering the recent trade request by Myles Garrett and Carter's overall value as a prospect, the Browns might decide to sort the QB situation at a later pick or in free agency. This is the down low on Carter. It's his first year playing the position of an edge rusher, and in year one, the guy had 24 tackles for loss and 12 sacks. So sky's the limit for him, and that's what teams are foaming at the mouth for. 12 sacks in your first year at the position. The untapped potential of what it could be in year 2, 3, or 4 as an edge rusher. Now, from a scheme fit wise, he's a little bit on the, I wouldn't say smaller side, but he doesn't really strike me as a traditional defensive end in a 4-3 defense. But Micah Parsons was not very far off coming out of Penn State as well. And he is a defensive end now for the Dallas Cowboys. So maybe in a couple of years, they kind of move Carter from being an outside linebacker who just comes off the edge to a traditional defensive end because he's had 1 or 2 NFL seasons to put on some good weight and get up to like 270-ish, which is right around where Myles is. I also think this, and this will kind of be the final note of the video. The fan base, they might just bully the Browns into taking Shedeur Sanders. I just think there is so much frustration, and rightfully so, at the quarterback position for Cleveland. Of we just wasted Petonio, Garrett, and Denzel Ward's prime because we didn't have the quarterback. I don't care how good Abdul Carter is. I'm willing to roll the dice on Sanders because if we miss on Carter, so be it. But if we pass on Sanders and he's great, doesn't matter how great Carter is. We just watched Myles Garrett put together a great season, and they won 3 games. And I can sympathize with you in that regard. And if Carter and Shedeur and Cam Ward were all similar prospects in terms of rankings, yes, tie goes to the quarterback. But they're not in similar rankings in my eyes. They're in very distinct tiers. And I can't just blend those tiers out of desperation. Before we wrap up today's episode, let's pick a card. Dylan Sutcliffe, awesome viewer of the channel. Reed, which card do you want to go with?
Let's go with King of Hearts.
I'm going to select not the Ace of Clubs, but the 5 of Hearts. No, 8 of Spades. 8 of Spades. I will see you guys tomorrow.